we're going to start with the disassembly process. Now, because of all the variations in RX7's front mount, V mount, single turbo, twin turbo, no turbo, you know, all these different things, this is the point you need to get to. So whatever you need to do for your configuration, assuming that you do have the stock configuration, this will be it. You don't need to take the duct out, intercooler, crossbar, whatever intake situation you have going on, just get to this point. That's all you need here. And then you'll also remove the under tray, and also if you have liners under your oil coolers, you'll take those off as well. And then our process is going to start under the car. So we're starting on the right side oil cooler. We're on the bottom here. So what we're going to need to do is disconnect the lines from the cooler. So you have this clip here, and it's shaped like the M for like Majin Buu. And what you have to do is get the thing out, and then you'll work this side to side, and it just pulls out, and then a bunch of oil is going to drain out. This is a messy job, so make sure you have your drain pans and whatever else ready. Just be prepared for that. What I would advise is removing the clips, both clips, right? So your car may or may not be rusty, and if it is rusty, this might be really hard to do, but fortunately this car isn't. All right, so you see the technique here. I got the leg out, and then I use a second pick to put it through the thing, and now I'm just going to lift it up and out, and then it just comes out. The line isn't gonna like burst and rip itself out. This is what it looks like. So with it installed, it's like this, and what I did was I used the flathead pick to get under this leg here, right, and stretch it out, and then once it was out, I used the second pick and went through in here to hold it out, and then you just work it out the rest of the way, and then it comes out. So right now this line is not secured, but it's okay, because until we pull it out, it's not going to leak. And then you'll just go ahead and do that the second time here. Boom. And there's the second one. Now every car is going to be a little different with how easy or how difficult it's going to be to remove these lines. But generally speaking, if you use a big set of channel locks and you grab it by the crimp and you just work it side to side, this one it didn't need to be done, but you work it side to side, you'll break it free, you might hear it crack, and then you want to just pull back. Now a lot of oil is going to come out, so make sure your drain pan is ready if you're doing this on the ground, which you might be. And then once it rotates smoothly, then you can pull them out. So sometimes you can pull them, sometimes they need a little motivation. This one needs a little motivation, so I'm using a flathead in between the edge of the crimp and the face of the cooler while pulling, maintaining pressure, and working it backwards. And then it'll just come out. There you go. Then you're just gonna let that drain forever. Ideally, if you could do this like the night before and just let it drain, you'll have less of a mess, you know? But this will never stop draining. Put it like that. The lines will, but the cooler, it won't. Relatively speaking, it's never going to stop. So if you could let it sit overnight, if you have that luxury, then do it. But if not, then just be prepared to work around a constant stream of oil. There you go. Then you're going to repeat these steps on the other side. Once the other side is complete, then you'll have two more. One here and one here. Exact same process. Take the clip out, pull them apart. Ideally, both of these lines here will be empty, so you don't have to worry about them draining, but there might be some residual in there. Just be prepared for there to be. So this line here you can move out of the way, and this one here is fine where it's at, but you can also kind of move it out the way. So now the hardline assembly is isolated from the car and the motor. So now we take these out. Alright, so now our lines are isolated. We have our mounts. The first mount we're going to disconnect. So we have our lines, we follow it here, you have this bracket, and that bolt right there is going to come out, and there's a little hook on the side, so you kind of have to jiggle it, but it'll come out. And then on the other side, same general location, that bolt there. Take both of those out, and then the lines will be loose from the car. With the lines isolated, we now need to make space for them to be removed. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the four 14mm bolts that hold the sway bar mount on. So they're already out, but there's one here, there's one there, and then on the other side, of course, in the exact same spots. Then what we have to do, of course, this is a right-hand drive car. Left-hand drive car should be 99% the same, but the concepts are the same. Then what we have to do is loosen the power steering line. So there's a mount here, and there's a mount actually inside the radiator, not the radiator, the crossbar thing. There's a mount in there. You can see it right there. Right there. It's that right there. You'll see a bolt that's in there. You'll take that out as well, and what that does is it gives the power steering line like a bunch of flex so we can get these out. And then what's going to happen, because like I was saying, there's these little hooks that hold the lines in on the sides. Alright, so let me see. Yeah, so that one came out. So there's one of these on each side. There's one of these on each side for the oil lines. So you gotta kind of wiggle it up and push it to the side, there you go, to release it, right? And then with everything down, what you're gonna do, in this case, you need to get the power steering line on the other side of this bracket. So we'll do that. There. So now it's free. And what we're gonna do, so your radiator's not gonna fall. Keep in mind, it's not gonna fall with this down. It's gonna come down a little bit, but it's not gonna fall. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna pull the lines out that way. So out of the left side, we're gonna snake it and we're gonna finagle it and we're gonna do everything we have to do to get them out. They do come out. Just take your time. As you saw, there's quite a bit of spin moves that go into it. So they do come out this way. So what you'll do is you'll spin, pull, spin, pull, spin, pull, finagle the lines down there, spin, pull, and eventually it will come out of here. I ended up having to unmount the AC line here just for additional space. It wanted to come through here, so I ended up doing that. But they are out. This isn't the only way to remove these lines. There are other ways. If you know of another way, do that way. If this is too difficult for you or whatever, use a different method. But this is the one I used. The only tricky thing is, presumably you'll be doing this on the ground. You do kind of gotta get the car up a little high because these, they dangle down here, and then as you pull, of course, they come up, but they have to be dangling pretty close to the ground. So you might want to get the car up kind of high, or try to snake them out through the bottom, or take your radiator out and just pull them right out to the top. Whatever you want to do. This was just the least intrusive method. So the next move is going to be actually removing the fittings off the ends of the factory lines. So as you can see, there's two hex sections here. This outer piece comes out, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put a huge wrench on here and a huge wrench on here. I don't know what the sizes are. I don't have wrenches that big. So you're gonna double wrench it. I used this big one here, and then this big one here, and then you're gonna break them off on both sides. And then this exact same fitting is what's actually in the oil cooler as well. Then you'll do the exact same thing for both of these fittings as well. If you have a socket big enough, you can put a socket on there and use an impact preferably and just snap them off. Otherwise, you're just going to use a big wrench and twist them out. With the hard lines removed, it's now time to move on to install. So what you'll have in your kit here are 3 lines, short, medium, long, a bunch of fittings, some hardware, and some clamps. So we're going to install this obviously in the order that makes the most sense. And we're going to start with these 2 fittings here, the ones with the copper washers on them. These will go into the lines that actually come off the block. This one here that comes off the front cover, and then the other one here that comes out from the oil filter pedestal ultimately. So you'll just tighten these down in the same fashion that you removed the factory ones. The torque spec on them is tight, and like you're not gonna don't force these things. They'll stop on their own. You know what I mean? So just tighten them down. You'll be fine. And then these, the 4 of these here with the dowdy seals on them, you're gonna lightly oil the threads, and you're also gonna oil the seal on this back side here. And then all 4 of these will thread right into the oil cooler itself. And then same thing with these. You'll tighten these down till they're tight. You'll know when they stop. Like don't try to break these things. Not that you could, because it would be kind of obvious after a certain point that it's like, hey, I think they're tight. You know, so just go ahead and tighten these down here. All 4 of them will thread in. With all 6 fittings in place, which you don't need to double wrench these because the oil coolers are pretty secure, but you will need to double wrench these. Like I said, the same fashion in which you remove the factory fittings. We're going to start with the shortest line. This is the one that is the shortest. You'll know it's the shortest because it's the shortest. You'll start with this one, and it's going to go from the fitting here that comes off of the oil filter pedestal, and it's going to go to the inner fitting here. Real easy, it doesn't matter which side you put on first. Just thread it on by hand. Leave it loose. Then you'll thread on the other side. Ideally, this is all easier from the bottom. So, I mean, you could do this on the ground. Obviously, I'm on a lift. It's for demonstration purposes, of course, for ease of demonstration. But anyway, so you'll go ahead and thread that on by hand as well. So you can see how easy this is. I'm doing this with one hand while holding a camera. So if you're having any difficulty, don't force any of these fittings. None of them need to be forced. Everything is supposed to thread on very easily by itself. Alright, so now we have that line on. With the medium line and the short line installed, hand tight, not tightened, we are now going to grab the final line, which is the longest line, and you'll know that because it's the longest line. Alright, so now we're going to feed it in from the right side. Same thing, it's going to go in front of the sway bar mount, under, then it's going to go through here, over top of the radiator hose, so over the radiator hose, but under the line that comes off of the front cover, and you'll get a better view of this from up top. And then we're going to pull it through here on the left side. And we will be going over top of the line that comes out here. Now you'll know this is wrong because it'll all be tangled up, but it won't be wrong because you're watching this video and you're following the steps exactly. So you don't have to worry about what it looks like when it's wrong, but just so you're aware, it will look wrong and you will question everything like, oh, I'm not doing this right. Okay, so I thread that on by hand. So just to recap, on this side, it goes over. Here, it goes over the radiator hose, not under it, over the radiator hose, but under the front cover oil line. Then on this side, it goes under this hose that comes out. So what that gives us is a nice, relaxed, uncrossed, untangled line that will then accept the clamps that we're about to install very cleanly and without struggle. So you just go ahead and screw that down by hand. Now at this stage, not everything is on by hand. You can go ahead and tighten all of your connections here. Now you want to treat these as AN fittings because it's kind of what they are, but you know, not really, but they are. So you'll tighten them as you would an AN fitting, a reasonable torque value, which there isn't really one, but you'll know, you know, it just sort of seats itself and it stops, and you'll know, hey, I'm going too far, or hey, I haven't gone far enough. So go ahead and tighten all these fittings down. All right, so a better look from up top. As you can see, all our fittings are tight here, and of course at the oil coolers. But now you can see a better routing of the lines. So under, but over the radiator hose, and then here you see it goes over this, and then of course you know what it looks like down there. So that's the routing of this here. So next move, we're actually going to install the intercooler support bar if you have it. Kind of assume that you do. But anyway, this is what you'll need. You'll need 2 of the clamps. All the clamps in the kit are the same. And then you'll need this piece of hardware here. It will be pre-assembled in your kit just like this with the 2 washers, the spacers, and the nut. And we're going to install this. All right. Now we're going to install the clamps onto that. We're going to need this piece of hardware here. It comes assembled just like this in the kit. You can take the nut off. You can take everything off, but leave 1 fender washer on. Then we're going to take our 2 clamps, and they both install this way, just like this on the lines. Focus, but you'll see. So they face back. We'll slip one on here. Then we'll slip one on here in the same orientation. Okay. Then we're going to put our crossbar in. Then we're going to take our bolt with the fender washer on it. We're going to slide it through. Then we're going to flip it around and stick the other fender washer on the bottom. This is what provides our bottom support, so it'll actually clamp. Then we're going to install our long spacer and then slide all of that through the first clamp. Then we're going to install our short spacer, and then we're going to slide the second clamp through that. And then we're going to put the nut on the bottom. Don't worry about making your finger tight, it just needs to be on there. This is what you're assembling here. So you can kind of see fender washer underneath, long spacer, followed by the clamp, short spacer, clamp, nut. And that'll be your assembly there. And just like this, I mean, for ease of install, you can leave it like that and go ahead and tighten it. The head of the bolt is a 4mm Allen, and of course the nut is a 10. This is what it'll look like installed. So just do your best to center it onto the hole, because it might be this way or that way or whatever. Just aesthetically, just make it look good. like that. And same thing with the clamps, they might twist some in either direction. You can just grab the hose and actually bend the clamp that way, and it'll rotate right here on this thing. You don't need to murder this down. You really don't. It doesn't need to be like dumb tight. You don't need to like use an impact on this or anything. Just tighten it nice and snug, you know. And then you can go ahead and bolt this cross brace back in because we are done with it. And that's how that will look here in this space. So as you can see, it lives completely under this. It's out of the way of everything. This space is now open for whatever you want. This space is now open for whatever you want. So you can see, even with left-hand drive, this is right-hand drive car, but even with left-hand drive, AC, and everything else, nothing lives in this space right here. The only, I guess, fitment issue you may or may not have is if you're running an AST, which you shouldn't be, but if you're running an AST, it would come off of this. Now, the factory hose that's on here is a really tight radius 90, so it comes off and immediately cuts back. But there's ample space in between the hose and there where you shouldn't have a fitment issue. And even if you do, there is play in the clamps on these lines where you can make some space if you really need to. But if you're here and you have an AST, just take the opportunity, just go ahead and delete it. If you have a two-piece neck, go ahead and get this the filler cap here and just do away with it. You don't need it. It's a nonsense piece of equipment. Just delete it. So anyway, that's what it looks like from up top. So as you can see, it takes up virtually no space at all. All right, so now we're moving underneath to size up those clamps and do those brackets. As you can see, the clamps are in the same orientation. They're in the same orientation there. Holes facing forward, flats in the back. And this is the bolt that has one spacer on it. And it goes in just like that. Now be mindful of your holes here, because your under tray holes and the holes that we're using to mount these, you could confuse them real easily if you're not paying attention. So it's the furthest backest holes, the one directly in front of the sway bar mount, because your under tray mount hole is there, and then you have your power steering line for right hand drive anyway, and then your second under tray mount hole is there. So this line did have to be unbolted to accommodate installing the lines, but then once we're done, we just put it back on. We'll just put it back on and then bolt it down and it'll be fine. And then on this side here, as you can see, this is the long bolt with 3 spacers on it. So it'll go bolt, short spacer, clamp, long spacer, short spacer, or clamp, blah, blah, blah. You get it. There's a visual right there. Forget what I just said. So they both mount the same orientation, whole side forward, round side facing the back. And this is our orientation of the lines. This is what it would look like. And then from the underside, there's this assembly here. That's our underside there. See what that looks like. See the fender washer doing its job, keeping the whole assembly clamped. Long spacer clamp, short spacer clamp, nut. And that's how that goes there. And even from the bottom side here, you can see how much space you have for the AST line. Like, it's a lot. I don't anticipate you having a clearance issue, but even if you do, you'll be fine. So the only thing to really make note of is where the hose touches. Now, of all the different radiator configurations out there and different radiator brands and types and stuff, there's no way to account for them all. Like right here, it's kind of close. You see it's kind of close, but it's not touching, right? But if it was, you know, the sheath will do its job, but you still want to make sure it's not touching. So the actual clamps, they do have some play in them. So you could bend these as needed in all 3 positions to give the clearance that you need so that it's not rubbing on anything. Chafing is a big issue when it comes to just lines in general, and they can destroy a line. So you need to make sure that you're not touching anything. The clamps can touch whatever they want. It's the lines themselves that you just don't want touching much of anything. And if you're unsure if it's a chafe problem or not, just grab the line and move it back and forth. That'll simulate all the micro vibrations that the line will encounter, and that's where all of your chafing issues come from. So in this kit, on this car, there are no chafing issues. It mounts perfectly, it lives perfectly, it is exactly where it needs to be. So your kit might look a little bit different than this. This is the prototype kit. This was the development kit. So the finishing on it might not be exactly beautiful or perfect, but it is a prototype. So it does look the way it looks. But anyway, that's it. That's the whole install. So now you have these hard lines here. They're somewhat worthless because it's missing the most important piece, which is this line here, and that's still in your car. But I don't know, maybe somebody might find them useful. Anyway, so you might want to sell them, you might want to keep them, whatever, do something with them. So that concludes the oil cooler, stock twin oil cooler soft line kit. That's the whole install. Fairly straightforward. If you do have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out. Instagram, Facebook, RX7 Club, email, phone, whatever. And, you know, of course, we'll help you with that. All these kits are made the same, so they fit on this car. They will fit on your car. If it seems too long or too short, you likely haven't routed wrong. Just follow the video, and you'll be fine. I promise. But thank you for watching. Thank you for purchasing the kit. If you purchased the kit or if you're just watching it for fun, that's cool too. Full Detail Automotive. Like, comment, subscribe. Check us out, fdauto44.com. Hopefully that's where you bought this kit, where you found the link for this video. If not, we're also on RX7 Club under FD Auto, Facebook, Instagram, all that cool stuff. So thanks again. See you guys in the next install video. Wait, before you go, one critical piece of information I completely forgot to mention. You just opened up your oil system. You replaced your oil lines with now completely empty oil lines, and your oil coolers have completely drained themselves to an extent. The urge will be great to start your car right away. Do not do that. You will hurt your motor because you will have 0 psi oil pressure for, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, which is 4 or 5 seconds too long. Okay? So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to remove these 2 relays right here. Take them out so that your car doesn't start. And then you are going to crank it a few times to get the oil circulated to prime the oil lines and to prime the coolers. Your oil level will drop quite a bit. Then you'll top it off, you'll do it again, and you'll repeat this process until your oil level stops dropping. Once that's done, then you can start it. You'll flip these 2 relays back over, start your car, and then you'll be good. It is very important. You do not skip this step. In fact, it's so important, I should have mentioned it earlier, but I forgot. And hopefully you stuck around to the very end of the video, because if you forget this step, you will hurt your motor. Please pay attention and do not forget to do this if it already didn't cross your mind to do it on your own. Anyway, like I said, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next install video.